For those of you who caught your spouse cheating, how did you do it? Story 1. I didn't directly catch her, but had a suspicion something was going on. One evening we are at a public event and my wife is working a booth she was assigned to. So, I'm walking around, killing time until the event is over. Out of the crowd there is a woman standing there looking directly at me in the eye. Somehow, someway, I immediately knew this woman was the other cheating victim. She approached me and already knew my name. She asked if we could go somewhere and talk. So we ended up in a booth at the McDonald's across the street. She lays out all the evidence she collected that her husband is doing my wife. None of this was a surprise to me, oddly enough. Everything fit together with my suspicions. We sat for a while I absorbed everything. What did surprise me was this woman then proposed that we go to a nearby motel and revenge do it to get back at my wife and her husband. I politely turned this down because she was clearly not in her right state of mind, and there was no way escalating the situation was going to help anything. Edit. Some follow-up info as requested. My wife and I went to separate gyms 2 or 3 times a week. Suddenly her pattern changed. She wanted to go to the gym almost every day, and she started wearing makeup to work out, which she never did before. Also, her libido changed. Every time she got back from the gym, she wanted to do it like a tiger in heat. I welcomed this because I'm a high libido guy, but it still struck me as odd. That why now all of a sudden, is she excited all the time? I don't know if she was pretending I was the other guy. Finally, anytime, any place, she would break down crying. She would never tell me why. It might be at home or out in public. I strongly suggested she get checked for depression, but she insisted she'd figure it out on her own. This leads us to the festival where my wife was running a booth while I encountered the other wife. After everything came out, it turned out the other husband had started talking to my wife every day at the gym. He was persistent and wore her down. She really did turn out to be depressed, which does not excuse cheating. But she was weak when this guy was coming on strong. In retrospect, the other wife did have more than a passing resemblance to my wife. I guess these women were his type. I'd be lying if I said my thing didn't twitch when she offered to go to the motel. But if we did that, then we would have given up all the moral high ground with what would come next. I don't think she saw this at the time. She wanted revenge on my wife, and the best way to guarantee no reconciliation would have been making everybody a cheater. But I wanted to deal with my wife on my own terms. I wanted to maintain the moral high ground. I talked with the other wife a few more times to sort out evidence and talk about attorneys, but I never did indulge. The other wife ended up remarried to a new guy about 6 months later. My wife and I went through years of marriage counseling, and she was treated for bipolar disorder. She eventually finished her therapy and even doesn't need meds anymore. She is a completely different person, and we've been married 18 years now, with her affair being over 10 years ago. I will say the experience broke something in me. I could walk out the door right now if she ever cheated again. But at the same time, our marriage is stronger than it's ever been. It's a very strange dichotomy that I don't even understand. Yeah, it could have been the hottest doing ever, but I don't regret it. You did the right thing. She and he would have just used that as ammunition to get on a moral high ground. Might be something her divorce lawyer could use against you, and also brings in more regret maybe. Story 2. My ex used to run a construction business with a childhood friend. They were very close, and his friend was in our wedding. Ex started stealing money from the business and lying about jobs. I didn't know this until his friend showed up at our home demanding we pay him back. My ex refused and told him he was going solo in the business. The friend looked me dead in the eye and told me the woman's name. No other info but just the name. I immediately knew what he meant by the look in his eye. He then gave me the address. The house was built by my husband 4 years prior. Mic drop moment. And a plot twist. Jesus. Story 3. She left her diary on the lounge room floor when she went to work. I debated reading it, but eventually gave in. Was then I found out about her doing with my brother multiple times when I was working night shift. When I confronted her about it, I was called a prick for reading her diary and for working night shift, therefore not being home when she got excited. I tried to explain the difference in levels of the bad things we did, but she didn't see any. For some reason, we didn't last after that. Your brother is a pig for that too, though. Story 4. I was rubbing her stomach in bed, and she made a joke about not being pregnant, assuring me she'd had a pregnancy test 2 weeks before. We hadn't seen each other in 3 months, because she was studying in Scotland. Real 4D chess move from her. Did she realize what she just said? Man, that also means she didn't use protection. It was far worse than that. She said this at the end of a few days together. Dinner and a spa day in a fancy hotel. A birthday party with friends she hadn't seen in a long time. And in the second fancy hotel she decides to make this comment. I wanted to believe she was joking, but then she just kept talking, digging a deeper and deeper hole. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened, so I played along, wishing her away at the airport, which was bloody painful. I called her the next day, and she opened with meaningless explaining and excuses, throwing around the word love and claiming she loves another guy in Scotland, but wants me to stay in her life. I told her to duck off, hung up, and broke down. Story 5. She didn't come home after dropping our youngest off at preschool 2 miles away for the afternoon session. I noticed she had makeup on and showered early on her day off, which never happened. Watched her location, and she was in a rural area she never goes to. And it wouldn't zoom in. Finally zoomed in and I screenshot it. Drove down and walked in on her, but baked, in his trailer waiting for round 2. He was outside smoking a cigarette, and when I walked up he looked like he thought I was about to kill him. Damn dude, she didn't even try to hide what she was doing. Story 6. She was treating me horrible for weeks. I got suspicious, so went through her phone. Found her Snapchat library of all the pics she took of herself to send off, and messages from a guy referring to those pics. I got the usual "how dare you go through my phone" bullshit. It really sucks having to tell the kids that mommy doesn't live here anymore. Yeah, the absolute audacity they have to try and gaslight into making out that you are the one in the wrong is wild. Nobody checks for absolutely no reason. Every time I've felt the need to check, it's been true, which isn't many times. But it still sucks. Story 7. I got let go from work early because we were overstaffed. She had ironically taken the day off for a mental health day. I pulled up into the driveway, and when I walked in the door, I immediately heard moaning upstairs. I'm assuming she's mastering. I go up there and open the bedroom door, and my wife is on her back doing herself all right, except there's another woman straddling her face at the head of our bed, whom she's eating out. It's another mom of one of the kids our kid goes to school with. I had no idea my wife was even into women at all. Just wanted to say I'm really sorry you went through that. If genders were flipped, people wouldn't be making jokes. I can't imagine how difficult that must have been for you, and hope you are doing okay now.